there's a podcast called I Am an Athlete podcast, and it's Brandon Marshall's podcast, right? And they had Kyrie Irving on. So here's what I want to do. I want to play it for you, and then we kind of want to parse it, kind of go piece by piece. He was asked why he left or asked to be traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here's Kyrie.
I asked for a trade because I was looking for something different. I was a man of my word. When I went to the organization, I sat the higher-ups down and said, look, I know y'all have future plans. Tell me right now. They told me their future plans. I said, look, this isn't for me.
That's right.
Didn't get a chance to talk to Bron before the media ended up coming out and saying that I asked for a trade. Mm-hmm. So I go over to China, and I'm on my Nike tour. Somehow the news gets leaked while I'm in China. I'm not even on American soil right now. So I can't even get on to defend myself.
Okay. This, by the way, par for the course of Kyrie Irving, where he's playing the victim. Right? He's a victim of the big bad media. Big bad media, because the media got a story that was accurate while he was in China, and I guess he expected them to sit on the story? There's so many things wrong with this. So, Ramos, do this for me. Let's just kind of go piece by piece, right? So I want you to listen to the first part, because the first part, this jumped out at me. He said, he starts by saying, I asked to be traded. Okay, so the first part saying I asked to be traded makes the end where he complains about the media reporting that he asked to be traded, somehow it being inaccurate. But listen again to what he said. He said, I sat down the higher-ups. Go ahead.
I asked for a trade because I was looking for something different. I was a man of my word. When I went to the organization, I sat the higher-ups down and said, look, I know y'all have future plans. Tell me right now. They told me their future plans. I said, look, this isn't for me.
Okay, so hold on real quick. So he says, I sat them down. I mean, that's that's more than a little arrogant. I sat them down. I told them. You sat them down? Or you said, hey, can we chat about something? I got some stuff I'd love to talk about. Okay, then he says, I asked to be traded. I had some concerns. I asked them their future plans. He didn't tell us, and this is part of not having somebody who's more experienced interviewer with the pod. There's no follow-up to what was it about their future plans that you didn't like? You're coming off a championship, right? You championship, and then you lose the next year. What about your future plans? What about their future plans did you not like? And then he asked to be traded. Okay, go to the next part.
Right. Didn't get a chance to talk to Bron before the media ended up coming out and saying that.
Okay, wait. Okay, so Jason Stewart, you've worked locally, you've worked nationally, you've worked television all within the last 5 years, right?
Yep.
Let's say you go to Scott Shapiro and you say, look, it's either me or Ryan Music. Ryan's my former producer. He's now with the Herd, right? It's me or him. Or you go to see if you sit down Don Martin and Scott Shapiro and you say you sit them down, by the way. I love that. That would go over well. And then you listen to their future plans. You don't like it. You walk out the door, and you got an upcoming trip coming up with your lady. Is it that hard to send a text to Ryan Music about what's coming out?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he says that he couldn't call LeBron, but a text, email, some kind of, hey, just a heads up. Yeah, that's a very within the bounds of 2017 or whenever this was. You could definitely communicate that way.
No question. Anybody in their world can be found on their cell phone.
And that's considerate. Yeah, that means you're considering other people.
And then, of course, there's the pathetic attack on the media. Like the media did something wrong because he asked to be traded, and he even said he asked to be traded. So help me out. What part of the story makes him look better?
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of this story that makes him look good. I do like the fact that he says that, and I'm there in China, and the news breaks, and there's nothing I could do, as if they don't have satellites anymore. You can't communicate if you're in a foreign country. But no, none of this story adds up to me. It just sounds like he was a baby who wanted his way, didn't care how it was going to impact anybody or any other business, and he left for China.
Yeah, and while you're in China, I mean, they have some pretty good tech in China. Like if you want to put out a statement, if you want to do a little video on your social media, even in 2017, you could. Like this, well, I couldn't speak for myself. You did. You asked to be traded. Like nothing, the zero opinion has changed, except you haven't told us what you didn't like that made you want to be traded. Other than that, tell me what we got wrong. Now, you want to be traded, but then you didn't talk to LeBron. You never voiced your concerns to him, and that's why you're feeling a little bit of guilt at it. Byer, am I missing anything on this one? Is there something which somehow relieves Kyrie of any sort of blame for the breakup of the Cavs that should make him feel better right now?
Well, in his defense, LeBron wasn't doing a Twitter Q&A, so maybe he wasn't able to reach out. No, I mean, I think that there could be an argument that could be made that maybe Kyrie should have spoken with LeBron first.
But yeah, before he went in.
Yes, that instead of that's the first situation. But I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't. The access portion of it. Yeah, it's not. Again, not taking responsibility for any of his decisions. Always put in a bad spot.
Yes. That's the difference between a child and an adult, right? There's a couple differences. One, no adult would ever turn down a nap, right? Like if I said to you right now, like, would you take a nap? You're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. And the other part is, adults say my bad. Children or people who act immature, it's everybody else's fault.
I know I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just going to say, I know I've said this before on the show, but getting married helped me so much in being able to figure out the right way to apologize, or being in a long-term relationship, and it makes it a lot easier. Maybe you have more wits about you. You have an idea of where you actually are, and so and I'm not saying that Kyrie's relationship status plays a part in it, but for me there was a growth process of it, and it wasn't until I got into a serious relationship and got married that I understood the real value and power of an apology, which also allowed me to realize that, guess what, maybe I do things wrong myself. And I think that could benefit Kyrie, that maybe he's not always right, that sometimes it is his fault.
Yeah, John Ramos.
I think that's just the way we are in general. I think this country, most countries, most people never, ever, ever want to admit that they're wrong. Never want to admit that it's their fault. It's innately in many people. I wouldn't say everybody, but I would say the majority of people always have an answer. I had my team, the ball got hit to him, and it went by him, and I said, hey, you almost got it. He goes, the sun. The sun blared me. There was no sun. I mean, it was nowhere close. But that's what kids do, right? They make excuses. They blame somebody else for their mistakes. And as we get older, I don't know if we really get out of that. Maybe certain people do, but for the majority, there's always an answer to something besides, you know what? I just really made a bad mistake there. I'm really sorry. Not that Doug or you or anybody gonna be like, okay, well that makes it go away, but at least it shows a little bit of that you are telling the truth, and you might get by it. You still might get in trouble for it, but at least you showed some sense and some care that it was your fault.
Oh, I totally agree there. It's interesting. I don't know if I told you guys on air, off air. So we actually played, my AAU team played against Matt Barnes' team. Matt Barnes' team is like the best or second best 7th grade team in the country. And we didn't have all our dudes because we were kind of playing in 2 different tournaments at once. And one of my best kids did play but was exhausted because he had played 2 earlier in the day, out in an area where it's really hot and whatever. And they're better than us, and they would have likely won just because of their size and skill. But I was disappointed with a couple of the guys' efforts in, like breaking a press. We have a press breaker. I tell somebody to take the ball in bounds. That's the person I want to take the ball in the bounds. If it doesn't work out because I have the wrong guy taking it in, well, then that's on me. You guys do your own thing and it doesn't work out, that's on you. Well, I had a kid who's very talented. It's actually his birthday yesterday. And, against any zone press, you have to get somebody in the middle. Doesn't mean you have to throw it to him, but there has to be the threat. That's the weak spot in a zone and in a full court zone press. And he didn't get there. And so when I called timeout, it's late in the game, we're getting beat. And I said, you're not there. And he gave me an excuse. And he gave me another excuse. I said, hey, just say I screwed up. Just say I was wrong. And then we move on, right? So he did, and then we move on, it's really hard to get people out of that thing to where they're like, well, there's this and there's that. Like, all that stuff is fun. I told you where to be. You consistently wouldn't be there, and we're not doing well against it. So just admit you're not doing your job correctly. So I agree with you, Ramos, that getting people to be accountable for it. But this is like Kyrie 101. It's always somebody else. It's always something else. Nobody understands him. Nobody gets him. The media's all out to get him. Like, no, we're not. So let me get this straight, Kyrie. You go tell the team you want to be traded. It gets out while you're in China and the media is supposed to wait for you? By the way, when that story released, there's no question. They called your agent first and said, here's the story we have. Do you want to comment on it? No. And at that point in time, I'm sure the text went out to Kyrie overseas. Hey, they're going to say that you want to be traded. Let's figure out what we want to do if we want to form a response, which, of course, you can do from China. So that whole thing's stupid. I think Kyrie thinks we're dumb and thinks he's smarter than everybody.
Well, to one of your points that you made, there wasn't any pushback to that answer. In fact, if you watch the video, it's Brandon Marshall, but LaShawn McCoy is the other.
Oh, that's Shane McCoy.
And the entire time he's just like, yeah, oh yeah, like they just were kind of like agreeing with, oh yeah, that's how everyone handles things. You're perfectly justified in what you did. There not only was there a pushback, but there was almost like an encouragement in the room. Of course that's how it went down.
Completely, that's how it went down. Did not follow up, did not ask the question. What specifically did they say were their plans for the future? And he says it, and then what part of that didn't you not like?